Hey guys, so today we're going to be talking about how I got more results and progress with a dating coach than 10 years of trying to figure out myself with online content. So happy to be here. We got, two people that you may or may not recognize who are going to be kind of leading and interviewing me and just like hearing about my story and journey and what I've learned over time.
Let's go.
Great to be here.
Good to connect, man.
Oh, man. So I'm Mike, Pickup Alpha / Squad and Casanova. This is Andrew over here. Do you have a nickname?
I no. That is what I go by. I've been doing this for a while, and I just love helping people have more success in their dating and relationships.
Yeah, it was a fun 2 days when we went out, man. So we're here in Vegas for the last week, but we ended up going out last weekend, both Friday and Saturday night. I think to Omnia and Zouk nightclub. Yes. Right, it was pretty wild,
dude. I'm very curious because we just recently connected, but you've had a channel regarding personal development for the last decade. How did that journey unfold for you, and like what motivated you to go so deep into personal development?
Yeah, so I started my channel 10 plus years ago. Mike was one of the first people I interviewed on that channel. And, I think it just came from this idea that you can actually grow and improve if you learn new ideas and concepts. Because I think before that, I had kind of more of a fixed mindset where it's just kind of this belief that, you're born a certain way and then you just kind of stay that way. So I think something early on, I think probably a book I read, the Automatic Millionaire or something, switched my belief in that. And then from then on, I just started consuming content around personal development in various areas and then posting what I learned in the process.
Was the YouTube channel mainly to document your personal journey? Or was it more of ultimately growing a brand?
I think it started as kind of one thing and then turned into all of the above. So I think early days of YouTube, it was more just do things for fun, entertainment. There's a lot of comedy videos on there. And then over time, as Gary Vaynerchuk and others came about, it was okay, this is something that can be turned into a personal brand or something that's more than just me just fooling around.
So so we chatted. You interviewed me back in 2014. So that was 9 years ago, right? So obviously you're aware about the dating scene. Did you start off with a normal personal development side first, and then you got into dating, or did you was dating the initial driver and then you branched out to more personal development?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I had definitely multiple motivators. So I think dating was always on some level a driver for me.
Yeah.
I've always found girls cute since elementary school. And it was just
strong testosterone.
Yeah, yeah. I was always even from a very young age, I was man, that would motivate me to try and impress girls. But I could never figure that out when I was younger in school. But I think it was not just dating. I mean, I was interested in making money. I was interested in social media marketing. I was interested in finding happiness. And so it wasn't just one thing.
What was the strongest motivator? Usually there's one that's the driving force for most people. What was it for you?
Yeah, when I started a YouTube channel, it was money. I think I was more focused on personal finance. So a lot of my content was on that. And then it branched out from there after a few years.
That's awesome, man. So how did it unfold? It's you graduated from college. What made you take that leap? You said you read The Automatic Millionaire and that converted you from having a fixed to growth mindset, right? And then what was the next step after that got you started and the ball rolling and taking care of your finances?
Yeah, so it was audiobooks basically. So at the time, people would post a full audiobook on YouTube. So I'd just play it at 1.5 speed or double speed. And I'd be this is all this free content from millionaires. like I'm just downloading really quickly. So, you know, I would play it while I was doing other stuff like working out or playing League of Legends. And so once you like get through like 100, 200 books, like you just get so excited. You've learned all these new concepts, and yeah, that just kind of spurred my passion for those types of things.
That's dope, dude. I think I learned from Tony Robbins that he calls that net time, no extra time. So like while he was in the car driving on his way to see clients or, you know, this seminar or that thing, he would be downloading, you know, the audiobooks and be listening to things and like learning as he went. So that's really dope that you did that. I also remember doing that as well. You know, subway ride in New York City or at the gym or this, you know, this downtime, I wanted to always be growing and learning. And I was like super hungry for that kind of information. Was there a top 1, 2, 3 books that were super pivotal in your personal development? I'll give you an example. For me, one of my favorite all-time classics was Principles by Ray Dalio. And
That's
actually, not to brag or sound like a hipster, but I found that book as a PDF on his investor relations website before he actually published it as a purchasable book. And I remember reading it and thinking to myself, holy shit, what he described as what people truly are after, which is meaningful work and meaningful relationships, getting the work part right and success being a byproduct, changed my whole perspective and approach to career. I realized being in the finance industry, I needed to quit the finance industry after reading that book, ironically by a financier who's like one of the most famous ones. And at that time, there were more meaningful things that I wanted to do. And going out, working my people skills, working my personal development, becoming more confident, becoming a better communicator, becoming a better coach, all of these things, seeking wisdom and life experiences were the things that were driving me underneath all of it. And I was just too afraid to make that leap, you know, and transition into, you know, a different area of life because the unknowns of unknowns were so strong. But the pain was so strong and it got to that point. And fortunately, discovering that bit of wisdom and nugget, you know, gave me the courage to finally like take steps towards the direction of a future that I knew was going to be much better, even if it was unknown, than the path that I was on. So for me, Dalio was like, you know, one of the all-time goats in my book for something that was really like applicable at the time. For you,
That's a good one.
what was that like 1, 2, 3, if there were any that you're like, damn, that like changed the trajectory of my life?
Yeah, first off, that's a really cool story to hear. For me, it's actually not like 4-hour work week. A lot of people got a lot from that book, but like for me, it was more like influenced by Robert Cialdini. So
No wonder you're slick with it.
yes. So and also Warren Buffett's Tap Dancing to Work, and they're interrelated too because I found out about Cialdini through another role model of mine, Charlie Munger, who's Warren's business partner.
Yeah.
And I think what both of those books taught me was kind of like the nuances to life. I think especially if you're kind of like engineering or like you know, tech person, some people kind of mistakenly see the world in black and white, or they just think everyone's rational and logical and that's how the world works. But these books like open my eyes to like all the nuances of life, like, you know, how like Cialdini's book tells you about all these like psychological biases that like make people operate irrationally. And so you really see like, you know, humans are not rational at all. And then Warren's book taught me a lot about the nuances of money, about how like how you can be rich and still be miserable, and how he kind of lives a very happy life regardless of, you know, all the money he makes. And he lives. There's a lot of life principles in the book beyond the fact that he's you know, rich.
Dude, that's super dope, man. And how do you think it applied into your life, like as you were accumulating more wealth for yourself? It sounds like you were able to like stay grounded as a person and not let these things affect you and not like let money be the pure motivator for certain things. While you were also improving that area of your life, it sounded like you also kept your values in check. Is that fair to say? Or like, yeah, tell me a little bit more about how those teachings affected you.
Yeah, for sure. So I think there's, and I'm sure, Mike, you've encountered people like this who, you know, they think that once they get money or women, then they'll be happy. And then before that, they have this hole that they haven't filled yet, and they think once they get that, it'll like solve everything.
Literally
it
and
doesn't. Definitely
metaphorically.
doesn't. We have many acquaintances and friends who have varying amounts of both. Some with a lot of money, no girls. Some with a lot of girls, no money. Some with both. Some with none. And there's not a perfect correlation. You know, I would say Andrew has even richer friends, probably in the billionaire league, that aren't necessarily happy. And I've met guys who've dated over 1,000 women that are still miserable. So I think, you know, if you're happy, you're happy. And I think having money and girls can help, but it doesn't guarantee anything. I think money can solve a lot of problems if you use it the right way. But I think a lot of guys end up making money, but they're still in that scarcity mindset, right? They're just like hoarding and hoarding. They're not using it to build anything or work on themselves. And so, or they're comparing it to somebody with more money, right? And it's just it never ends. You can always compare yourself to somebody else that's has a higher net worth, right?
There's always someone who has more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, long story short, for me, I think I'm very grateful that I was able to learn that through, you know, the books I read. I'm also very into like science of happiness and evolutionary psychology. So I read a lot of books about that, and it just kind of helped me not have that state, because I think when you don't, then no one really tells you, like there's no like class in school about like happiness. So people just kind of, I feel like they come to their own devices, and sometimes they waste a lot of time just chasing something that won't lead to fulfillment.
Yeah, I think we talked about this yesterday, which is like, you know, it's not necessarily always being in a constant state of happiness that's important, but like being purposeful and finding ways to be fulfilled. And that comes down to growth and contribution. When we're doing things that feel meaningful and purposeful to us, and we're growing in those types of ways, those are the things that we're most proud of when we look back in life. Like, at least for me, I remember I was going through some tough times in New York, but I was still going out. I was growing. I was exploring my interests. I was reading a fuck ton of books. I was like challenging myself, expanding my social comfort zones, like getting outside of them, and like making myself like just go through these painful, like, you know, approaches or rejections or whatnot. And like trial by fire, getting onto the other side and being like hardened like a diamond. And I look back on those years with such fondness, even though like at the time I was like eating boiled chicken at home because I wanted to save money, and like prolong that runway that I had for myself to be able to like work on myself as much as possible. Those are the times where I look back, I'm like, damn, I can't believe I did that. Because I've done that, I know that I'm more capable. It's like this feeling that's underneath, right? And another time that really I felt that way was 2019, leaving corporate for good. I basically traveled all around the world, 15 countries. And the second half of that year, I did like high ticket travel coaching. And I was like, holy shit, this is my first foray into entrepreneurship. Like without a safety net. Like before I was kind of doing it on the side. Now I was doing it for real. And I'm in the game, I'm in the arena. And I realized for a long time, that dream to see the world, travel on my own terms, be able to explore and like know what romance feels like, what dating feels like, to actually discover different cultures and see like what the world was. It hit me like maybe 2 months in after the following year when the pandemic hit, and I was like stuck at home, and I was like, wait a fucking second. That was my dream for the longest time. When I was like stuck in my cubicle, this is what I was dreaming of doing. And I fucking finally did it. Holy shit. Like I don't know why it was like such a latent thing for me to realize, but I remember feeling this thing viscerally. I was like, if I were to die, not that I want to, knock on wood, I think I would be at peace right now. Obviously, things have changed since then, and there's more mountains now that I've created for myself that I want to climb. But I think it really is that feeling that people are after, which is like looking back and feeling proud of themselves for who they've become. That is the feeling that we're after. And I think that's the reason why it's so important to have that purpose, right? And for you to kind of be on this YouTube train and be into personal development and sharing your wisdom of like all the hard work that you put in, all the books that you read, all the digesting, all the knowledge and wisdom seeking that you've done, I think that's really fucking dope, man. Like that you've done that for the last 10 years consistently. So I really got to like tip my hat off to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good stuff, dude. Let's transition to dating. So obviously, you know, you've been in the dating space for probably a decade. You know, we chatted 9 years ago. So that means I'm assuming that you've been watching dating content at least a year before
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
So you've been in this space for a decade, if not more. But was there a specific catalyst? Did you like get close to talking to a girl? Was there like a pain point, or was it just, because for some people getting into dating, it was like a sharp pain point, right? For me, it was like, a bad breakup. For other people, it was like just like dull, chronic feeling of like, hey, I need to get this handled. Hey, I need to get this handled. For also like, when I was starting off, my roommate would always bring girls back, and I would hear all the sounds. I'm like, all right, dude, I'm done with this, right? So what was that like? Did you have like a major catalyst, or was it kind of just like, hey, I like this, and you got into it?
Yeah, it was more like chronic pain with like flashes where it would spike up.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say like,
It's very descriptive.
yeah,
It's like a health dating in terms of health,
health,
like a
health
heart
conditions.
disease problems. I had an
With
acute
some
myopic.
Arithmetism,
It's like a heart disease, basically. Yeah. I
little
think
heartache.
probably like in college was really where it was like, okay, that was where it was started. And, some were very hot. And I was like, this is an area that I needed to start sorting out.
Yeah.
Or like,
Go on the internet like everybody does, right?
yeah, so, that's where it
Reddit.
started. And then
Where it all started.
it was actually, I think the first dating advice piece I ever
Like
saw.
how you went from serious to like troll.
Was I googled like how did dating tips, and
What website you land on?
it was some personal website where they just like listed 10 tips. Like that was what's
it's
ranked
just some random
number
blog.
one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Homemade
it was like
videos.
way back in the
Yeah.
day where there's like almost no content.
Alt fast seduction.
Yeah.
Bristol layer.
So like the tips were like really generic too. It was like, use open-ended questions. And so I was like, oh, I found some like tips.
Yeah.
And so that's basically where it started.
Okay. And then over the last 10 years, did you apply it? Like, walk us through this 10 years. Year one, what did you do? Year two, what did you do? Did you go out? Once you finish college, because recently you've been doing a lot. But what have you been doing the first 9 years?
Yeah, so let's see. In college, I basically approached on campus. It was basically a lot of, just manning up the courage to like approach girls walking by in the cafeteria and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think the first 2 years, like it would take me like a couple hours to get the courage to do one approach.
Okay.
So
And then how would it go? What were the
very short interactions. I think
Uh-huh.
it was like, hey, I think you were cute, and she'd be like, oh, thank you, bye bye. So it was kind of like my first foray into it, and that was the era where
What type of girls did you approach?
um
Big booty Latinas, nerdy Asian, fobby Asians, ABGs,
whatever I was
Maryland
interested
black
in.
girls.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's dope that you took the first step to like have courage to make those types of
So it
approaches.
started with
Yeah.
day game on
College.
campus.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
No results.
Not really, no.
Did you get like one that was like, you got any
Okay.
numbers?
Yeah, I got numbers,
Okay.
and then I think one time I got a number, and then she texted me back, like that night, and I screwed it up because she was like, "Hey, when are we going to have that date?" And I was like,
She said that.
"Yeah," and I was like, "I don't remember you at all."
You
And
said
then-
that?
Yeah,
Wow, damn.
And
dude.
she got
so much
offended.
content. Why did you say that?
I was just so new at this, and I guess I had blocked her out because I got
The
rejected.
first girl that responded was like, bitch, who?
Who this? New number.
and she sent like a photo, and she was like really really cute too.
Oh, fuck, dude. And then?
She was like half Asian.
Okay, damn, dude. That was the
And-
best.
And I just messed it up because she got so offended that.
But she sent you a picture. That means you made her work. You did some push-pull on accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what'd you say after she sent you the photo?
At that point, I was like, sorry, I don't remember you, but I still want to go on the date. And she just got so offended that I forgot that she just stopped
Damn.
responding.
What a player. Player. Just
Yeah,
I'm
so
an
I think-
unintentional fuckboy.
So lesson learned. I think I was like, I blocked out all the. I guess I forgot all the rejections, but I also forgot the ones that went well.
It's like when you're so used to losing, it's like you don't even know what it's like to win anymore. Right? It's almost like learn. That's why I tell guys like, dude, don't if you're not racking up little wins, like you're just teaching yourself to be a loser and you're acclimating and being used to losing, right? So I always tell. That's why like when I on a boot camp, I always try to pick just the perfect sets, right? Like I pick girls where I think they're gonna win. I pick girls where I think they're gonna win. You gotta rack up the wins, right? Because small wins lead to more confidence to bigger wins. I think what happened was you're just like brute forcing it and just running like unoptimized game on campus. And to be honest, like campus game is kind of hard. Like you're meeting girls between classes. She's got like a 20-pound backpack. They're literally like, oh God, I got a midterm. Oh. I gotta get ready for bio 307. Where's the mitochondria? And then fucking Will comes out of nowhere. It's like, what? So
I'll show you my mitochondria.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah. So you came close. That was interesting. You should call that number again. See what's up.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Will.
Remember me? No, I'm offended.
He's like married and has kids. Dude, that's crazy. Okay, and then any other close encounters?
I mean, that's it for college. So we can move on to post college.
Let me add one thing to that about finding ways to win. A profound thing that I heard recently, we talked about this too very briefly, was Hermosi said experts aren't better just because they are better. They found more ways to win than that person who probably gave up. And so I think, fortunately, like in life, you can set the terms of the game that you play. And I think with guys, when they're starting out in this domain, it's very hard to break away from the game being, let me get the number, let me get the date, let me get laid, right? Let me get a girlfriend. And if anything else happens besides those things, then you lose. So you're basically stacking the game against yourself at the very beginning when it's very hardest versus like setting different types of metrics as ways to feel good about and win. So for me, one of the ways that I was able to do that kept me going in that pursuit of improving myself was doing the approach itself was the ball building thing that would make me more courageous as a person, and that would be the win. Doing the thing that I didn't want to do and making that happen was the win, and I would reward myself for it. Outcome independence, win or lose, it was always a win. Whether she rejected me or gave me a number, it didn't fucking matter. The fact that I conquered my own mind, that's what I felt proud about. And so for anybody that's out there that's like kind of going through this or can relate with this, find many ways for yourself to win and reward yourself for it. And like the harder the set, the more the signals are like flowing through my body. I have to go do this. Oh, she's with a friend. Or she's with this person. Oh, she's like running to the subway, whatever the fuck it was. The fact that I felt more nervous about it was like the indicator to go do it. And when I did do it, I was like, man, I made that happen. Dude, I was able to do it even though it was super fucking hard. And then those things became easier and easier and easier. And then lo and behold, like it just stacks. And then when you have those wins, that's when actually your body like shoots like testosterone through your body, right? That's like the winner's effect. And then all of a sudden you feel that like superhero like energy. So hopefully that's helpful for you guys. And I think everybody's probably found a way to do that in their domain of expertise, right? So if you're more on the business side, you probably found many ways to win and feel good about it and like find resilience. Just find a way to apply that to other areas of your life that you want to improve that you might be struggling right now. So
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, so fast forward.
Love personal development like you too, bro.
Yeah. I love that.
So it seems like you stayed in Maryland for even after college, right? College was Maryland, then job was also Maryland. So you didn't have too much change of scenery.
Yeah, I tried. So I applied to college and I applied to jobs, across the country. At that point, I just couldn't find one outside where I was. They found out I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so they prefer local talent to come in for interviews.
So so after college, obviously you're done with college and you're not running campus interactions. Like, what did you do now? Like, so from 22, 23 on, how did you meet girls? What was your approach? What did you do?
Yeah, so it's a long story, but to kind of summarize it, I think some of the dating advice didn't resonate with me at the time online.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it was focused on like nightclubs and stuff like that, and there are no nightclubs
Yeah.
in that area unless you
You're like in
go-
the outskirts of like
You're in the
suburbia,
suburbs. You're in-
suburbia of Maryland.
it's all suburbs.
apple trees.
So I tried as much as I could, and to be honest, like I could have driven.
You could have.
To like
How many hours was
DC,
it to DC?
Like an hour and a half tops.
Doable. Yeah, I used to drive 70 miles to San Diego.
So I'll take ownership of that. I was kind of scared of going out at night at that point.
So, what made you resistant to getting some help?
Yes.
And, like, why were you so determined to just do it like purely on your own year after year?
Yeah. So this is kind of jumping ahead to where we're at now, and to answer that, I think it was money was a big part of it. Yeah, a lot of these things are high ticket. That said, I think I still could have done it earlier.
Can I ask you a question? I don't really think money was it. If it was your priority, you could have.
Yeah, if it was my priority, I will take ownership. I could have just saved up.
Yeah.
And I still could have made it happen.
Just curious, if you could have gone back in time,
Yeah.
would you have, at your previous salary, would you have
Yeah, I think I
pulled out
would
the
have.
money to
Yeah,
save
really?
10 years?
Wow.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be like immediately, but like
Yeah.
probably like instead of waiting 10 years, I would have waited 5 years. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
Or 7 years.
Okay.
You would have definitely done it earlier at some point,
Yeah,
knowing
yeah,
what
yeah.
you know now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can break down
Because
why.
even like 40K is like one tenth of your annual salary.
yeah,
But
yeah.
net of taxes and like living
Yeah,
expenses
yeah,
and all
that's
that
true.
shit. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
I
It's
totally
tough.
get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially for something in an area of life that doesn't have like a direct ROI. It's not like a business offer. We're talking about like a social offer. So I remember having to take that step too and making that investment and knowing that, hey, I'm going to take all my disposable income this year and like blow it on like boot camps and know that I'm not going to have anything really saved up. Not a huge safety net. I was just banking on the fact that, you know what, this will improve me so much as a person all across different facets of my life that hopefully I can make more money later. And the benefits will be something that I can continue to experience from this point out with women and socially. So one thing that actually helped me was a year later after I did that, I actually made it back through coaching. And I'm wondering, like, you know, for anybody else that's out there too, like, did that idea come to mind? Hey, what ways can I make this more of a possibility? Like, hey, what ways can I generate some side income to go afford something like this? Right? Did that ever like cross your mind? Oh, maybe I could pick up a side hustle, or maybe I could reach out to these guys and add value in different ways. And then maybe there could be a way we can negotiate for a different type of cost or like something like that. Did that ever like cross your mind?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Mike said partially about. I don't think it was completely the money. I think part of it was. I don't know. I think at the time I was still sussing out a lot of these programs to see if like they were legit and stuff like that. As far as like side income, side hustles, I probably should have considered like some type of partnership or exchange situation. Never crossed my mind to do that. In terms of just earning more income myself, yeah, I think I do a lot of like side hustles and stuff like that, and nothing really took off to the extent I wanted to. So haven't given up on that yet. I think there's a lot of things I have built that I think potentially one day I have like a lot of the pieces that could turn into something. For example, a lot of people since like internet marketing started say like build the email list, the money's in the list.
Right.
So that's one thing I'm happy I did very early on, which is to just build my personal brand and continue to send them to my newsletter. So that's something I've built along this time, and I'm starting to get into how to monetize that effectively. But I do have that newsletter.
That's super dope, man. Yeah, man, that takes a long time to build the kind of following that you have, which is super fucking dope, man. Like 30,000.
And I commend you for
nuts.
not actually giving up on this.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think a lot of guys I don't think a lot of guys would stick in this for 10 years to ultimately get it handled. I think a lot of guys on and off, maybe 2 years, and it just doesn't happen. They settle with the first girlfriend, or they just give up completely, man. So that's pretty dope. You like at least just hung in there long enough, which is
Thank you.
pretty insane. But I'm just curious, like throughout this decade, did you ever like, what were you feeling? You're just like, because when you told me the story of this journey, you were like, oh man, dude, I fucking did everything, nothing worked. I would just get blowouts. My conversations were like 2 minutes. Like, what do you feel like was the missing piece? Like, what, like, was it, did you know it was, because like looking back, like based on the feedback, it's kind of like, you know, the places you were going, the mindset, like you not plowing, maybe your fashion at the time, but like, you know, go ahead.
Yeah. So to be fair and kind to myself, it wasn't like I was like completely barren. I was getting online dates. They were trickling in. I was going on dates through my apps. Yeah. They weren't to the quality I wanted. They weren't to the quantity I wanted. Yeah. So I felt like I didn't want to settle in life. I didn't want to, you know, just meet a mediocre Asian wife from China and then, you know, settle down in suburbia and live a.
Let's talk about your date. How were your dates? Like, what would you do? Like, where'd you guys go?
You know, mostly it was like to, you know, coffee shops.
And then
Chuck E. Cheese, just like random stuff, restaurants.
Chuck E. Cheese?
Damn, dude. How old are these girls?
You still like the elementary school girls? No.
Well, just to kind of spice it up a bit, you know.
Nice.
Do
Spicy.
something fun.
Well, do you know Chuck E. Cheese is for really young people?
Yeah. That's why it was.
Okay.
That's why I.
When was the last
would
time
do
you
it
took a girl to Chuck E. Cheese?
I did it once. It was like in my 20s. Like,
how many years ago?
It's like several years ago.
How many? To be specific. Several.
Let's say 7 years ago.
Okay. All right. So you were 24?
Yeah. The point was to be playful. That was like a one-off thing, just to like be playful.
That's cool. Yeah,
you know, hey, let's do something different from the boring.
All right. So just in the future,
restaurant.
if you were to take a girl like Dave and Buster's, just like alcohol.
Okay. We'll do.
If you were to.
I'll make a note. No more Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah. So the point being,
and just curious, where'd you come up with the idea? Who gave you the feedback? Hey, you should take a girl to coffee or Chuck E. Cheese.
Coffee was just like pop culture standard.
Sure.
Like, I'm sure like some dating coach said it. I think, you know, Tucker Max probably said it. The point being, I think the intent I got
He's
was
not
like,
a dating coach, by the way. But anyways, I digress. Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah, just who gave you the idea for Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah, I think Tucker did too, because he at the time he had his own like dating like the Mating Grounds podcast. Yeah. So I think the point was like with coffee, it's like, you know, quick and easy. If they don't like you, they can just like bounce.
Yeah.
And then the Chuck E. Cheese was more of like a one-off recommendation where it's just like rekindle that like playful childlike, you know, nature. With a girl. Do something out of the ordinary.
What happens when you took girls to coffee dates? How did you?
What was your model of dating? So let's say like you took a girl to a coffee shop and then, you know, obviously if it didn't go well, it would end, right? But if it did go well, like what's your kind of like flow chart of?
Yeah. So at the time, my idea was, you know, you go on 2 or 3 or 4 dates and. You know, depending on if you click from there, you may transition eventually to like a relationship. So that was my model in my mind at the time.
Okay. So let's say if the first day is coffee, what would you take a girl on a second date?
Okay. So at that time, probably to a restaurant or something. It's very like basic.
Yeah.
It's like a very basic playbook, essentially.
And then what would you do after having dinner with them or having lunch with them?
You know, just hug them and then say, hey, it was a great night. And then, you know, hope that
so it wasn't
when
even,
I texted them, they would, you know, want to come out for a second date.
So it wasn't, you didn't even attempt to go further because you didn't know that was possible.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, that was like the American standard of dating.
Okay.
You go on a few dates, and then after the third date, something might happen.
Just repeated dinners, or what?
I think it was like movies,
You never just thought, hey, maybe come back to my place?
Yeah, no, because keep in mind I was in the suburbia, and
Can I
like
ask you something? You've been watching my videos. You've seen a lot of pull videos.
yeah,
Okay, so you knew it was possible, right?
yeah, but it was just like so like it was like I didn't
You've
live
seen
near any
my students pull
nightlife.
every single weekend.
Yeah, but
You
at
knew it
the
was
time I was
possible.
like,
So
I knew
it
it
wasn't
was
that you didn't know it was
possible, yeah.
possible. It's
Yeah.
just because I'm guessing it's your religious background that like held you back. You didn't go for it.
no,
Not that you didn't know it was possible.
I think it was because I lived in such a suburbia that it was just a different feel. It was like there's no night. It's like Mike's doing his own thing way in Vegas with all these nightclubs near him. But I live in a different area where you have to drive like
But I lived in the
30
suburb.
minutes.
I drove 70 miles to San Diego.
yeah.
Right.
So it was probably like a belief that was wrong I had in my head
Yeah.
at the time when I was younger.
Yeah, these like weird self-imposed limitations.
Yeah.
like, and limiting beliefs. It's like hard to know unless like someone else like tells you a different way of doing things, right? Like, oh, I didn't even realize I could go do that. Or like going to the girl's place. You know, that could have been an option too. It's like, oh, hey, where do you live? Like, hey, why don't we go hang out at your
Yeah,
place?
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
could have been another alternative
Yeah.
as well.
'Cause if you don't think it's a possibility, you're not even going to go for it. Why did it take you 10 years to figure that out?
I think it's a mixture of things. I think one, when you're in like a lot of the advice online with RSD and stuff, it's very like wishy-washy. So I didn't really have a strict structure. And then I'm just trying to figure it out on my own in suburbia. There's really no one else doing the same stuff. And then like if you ask if my family and friends, you know, their advice is really like generic, like, oh,
Yeah.
just be yourself, or, you know, maybe you should lower your standards. So there's no like feedback. There's no like expert who knows all these steps to guide me.
Right. A coach can just like, okay, this is good. Don't do this, don't do this. And you don't have to like guess. Everything's aligned, right?
Yeah.
Just getting reviewed from a third person perspective. And you get an autocorrect before the mistakes can even happen. Right. So I don't know if you wanted to expand more on that night or.
Yeah, I mean, when you're just trying to figure it out on your own, it's just like really, really difficult. I mean, I'm sure someone out there is thinking, oh, I could save some money. I could just, you know, there's thousands of free videos on this stuff online. I'm just going to save some money and learn it myself. You could do that and end up the same way I did, waste 10 years trying to like learn it yourself. But like, there's so many blind spots. It's like an analogy would be like, let's use that learning Spanish analogy. It's like, rather than moving to Spain and, you know, getting a coach in Spain that teach you Spanish, what I did was I stayed in the U.S. and like I would like watch a TV show, a YouTube video in Spanish, Breaking Bad in Spanish, like once or twice a week. But like not really like thoughtfully like analyze what I did. So like you can imagine that I think, you know, I put in a lot of effort, but I was just completely blind to a lot of the things I was doing right or wrong. Yeah.
Right. You gotta look at it the way I see it. There's three numbers,
Metrics.
you got three different numbers essentially. Number one is
Six pack.
number one is how many. Number one is
Inches.
well, number one is how many girls you interact with, right? Obviously, if you interact with 0 girls, you're gonna get 0, right? So that's the first part of the numbers game. The second one is conversion, right?
Kind of like online
conversion.
marketing.
If you talk to 1 million girls, your ability to convert 0, you're still gonna get 0.
Right.
And then 3 is like the targeting. Are you going somewhere that has good leads, right? So like, for example, if you're trying to sell, I don't know, you're trying to sell crutches.
Eskimos.
Let's say you're trying to sell crutches, but you're trying to sell it to healthy teenagers. They're not going to buy it, right? So number one is you got to go to the right place where the demographics are favorable, right? Then you got to put in the work, and then you got to improve upon it so your conversion rate is. So you need all three numbers. If you take me to Iraq, I'm probably still going to do bad because the target audience isn't there.
Did you say Iraq?
Or whatever, Middle East. You take me to some weird religious Muslim like country, right? I'll probably do bad because the target demographics isn't good.
We'll find
right?
a way to make it work.
So I would say out of these 3 numbers, you got 1 out of them. You nailed 1, which is just the pure volume.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
didn't target the right demographics, and you didn't work on your conversion because you didn't get feedback. Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I would say, kind of cycling back to your road trip, you did this massive road trip, right?
Yeah.
And then before you met me, I was kind of already like telling you why things weren't the best demographic. Because you went to number 1, you went to Miami, right? Number 2, you went to Austin, Texas, and number 3, you went to Arizona, right?
Yeah.
And like I think anybody that looked at your YouTube videos and how you were previously dressed, you kind of have this nerdy, fobby Asian look vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I think that's pretty accurate assessment there. So, and I'm just like, here's your archetype, and then here are the places you're going. It's not the right demographics for you to be running game because like you're so, if you go to Miami, you don't see nerdy Asian guys there. It's Cubans, it's Cubans, it's Puerto Ricans, it's Latinas like in buff black dudes and jack dudes and Lambos and crypto bros, and like it ain't you. Right, and you're having a hard time. It's a very ultra competitive place. You go to Austin again. It's just like hipster white girls, the Bible Belt, religious Texans. It ain't nerdy Asian guys, right? I was like, all right, you're not gonna do well there. And then you go to Arizona, like Phoenix. It's ASU. Yeah, a lot of attractive girls, but again, your archetype doesn't do well there because they're into athletes. It's a school.
Athletes.
It's a school known for girls all dating a cookie cutter type of dude.
Frat guy.
Guys named Ryan that play baseball. That never made it to the major league. That's what the type of girls, guys that they go for, right? Yeah. So like,
sounds like you got a story there.
So when you talk to a coach, it's just like, why are you going there, right? You got to go to Vegas where it's a little bit of everybody, right?
Fuck Ryan.
There are girls, there are Latinas, there's Asian girls. It's a little bit more all inclusive. So like you also got to read it's not just a city, but it's also the venue type, right? Some venues are more about mingling. Like a Vegas nightclub, it's more about like meeting new people, interacting. It's about like all these guys, rich dudes with tables. It's about meeting the DJ. It's about like meeting people from different countries. Obviously if you're coming in from Toronto or Vancouver, you're not gonna everybody that you meet isn't gonna be from Canada, right? So the environment, the vibe of the venues in Vegas is more socially acceptable to meet different races, people outside of your normal demographics, different age brackets. Because again, all these guys that buy tables, they're in their 30s, maybe 40s. So girls that are in their 20s are more used to hanging out with not their college buddies, right? So again, this is where the targeting, you got to go to where the demographics are in your favor, right? Mm-hmm. So like this is why a coach can help you with that. I'm like, dude, you're just like beating your sometimes even as a dating coach, there are areas that I will struggle with. You know what I'm saying? Like even me, I will struggle. If I go to like, a small bar in Nebraska where it's just like everybody's drives a John Deere tractor and the girls only date dudes named Dylan and fucking
another story.
Fucking Dylan or Craig. And then here's me fucking from Vegas. This is not going to work out, dude. So
but Will got that Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger knowledge, though. I think he would slay out there. Let me show you the 10Ks.
Anyway, me going on too long, but you see how like the value of like good shit, man. I don't know. What else do we want to talk about?
Dude, I also like want to commend you for making that road trip and testing, your capabilities in these like very attractive but competitive cities as well, right? And the fact that you had the balls and you put the time and effort to do it, I think speaks volumes. I think we've learned in retrospect, having the guidance, brushing up the craft, and then going out and putting it to test would have made those trips even more fruitful or at least a higher percentage. And I don't think that like those are out of your realm of possibility. Keep sharpening the craft, get a little bit sicker, get a little bit edgier, get a little bit more of that leadership and pull structure. And I know that you'll probably make good things happen when you do revisit those cities, break those stereotypes.
Yeah, they're definitely they're still good cities. They're definitely doable. You just have to like change your archetype, improve your game a little bit. And I agree with Andrew. Like doing that road trip, even beating your head against the wall, going through hardships, is still better than just not doing anything at all.
Yeah.
At least you have that resilience and gotten the experience of doing it. Doing anything is better than doing nothing. So it's, yeah. I mean, after a decade, better late than never. So, yeah, I think with what you learned in Vegas, you go back to some of these cities, or as you continue to the rest of the country, you're going to be more and more, efficient. You're going to have better perspectives when you go out.
And just out of curiosity, because there was so much, what were those, and we've alluded to them, but what were those big breakthroughs that you had, or like, these big takeaways that you had from just even this like one past weekend? And like, what are you going to bring forward going forward?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that I wasn't aware of that you should be doing. For example, Mike calls it plowing an interaction. So I didn't know that. I used to like eject from a conversation like fairly quickly, if
Prematurely, maybe.
yeah, prematurely, when they didn't show like interest. So like if they disengaged, I would be like, oh, that means they don't like me. But Mike says you got to extend the interaction to see how far it goes. Practice your skills to see how. Because a lot of those can flip around, and sometimes they're just testing you to see how you respond. So that's one thing, but there's many others that I learned.
What are some of those big ones? I'm sure there's so many guys that can relate and are on the fence or justifying in their mind why they could do it themselves on their own, and are also waiting years. But like, now that you've gone through that, what are some of those other big ones that you're like, oh man, next time I'm out there, I'm gonna do this. Next time I'm out there, I'm gonna remember that. Like, what are some of those other ones?
Yeah, so I think a lot of Asian tech guys or white tech guys who may be listening to this, they're probably logical like me, very very logical. However, I think there's a certain we were talking about this yesterday, a duality to it where you need to tap into that playful, theatrical, emotional side of you, because that's what girls are kind of tapped into, and you really got to pull it out. So Mike recommended I just
You put it in. I think it's the same thing.
You perverts.
Mike recommended I go to improv comedy like forever, just to like just to pull that out of
I
me.
think you hit it on the head, which is that duality that we all need to have to be the attractive person that we know that we can be, and like be the best of both worlds, right? Like on one hand, being the capable like person that can provide or take care of someone is just like one aspect and role of a man that ends up dating somebody or like wifing them up. But then that emotional connection, like humans, especially women, are emotional creatures. So how do we connect with them on that level? Especially when you're out and about. People are trying to escape the mundaneness of life, and they're working all day, 9 to 5, 5 days a week, maybe even more. And then when they're out, they want to have fun. So if you're contributing to the fun and making them feel that kind of way, that's that value. That's that feeling that they're like, oh, there was a vibe. Oh, we just connected. Right. And so how do people usually do that? And how do you bring that in there? How do you spice up the conversation so it's nonsensical and fun? It doesn't always have to make sense. Right. But if you also start off that way, hook them emotionally, and then you get to know them logically on a deeper level too, that's that best of both worlds. That's where they're having fun and they feel understood and they get to know you. And that's like how you're even more attractive to them in their eyes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And then another thing he taught me was just like, I needed some more structure to it, because like a lot of the stuff I heard online was just very vague stuff that you can't really wrap your head around. So I got more structure on like steps from like beginning to end, on like things you need to do and how to measure your success. So I don't know if you want me to give away all the steps, Mike, but I mean, just one of the metrics was.
You can give it away, man. Yeah. It's not the same, dude. Everything, to be honest, here's the thing. Everything I'm teaching is on the internet. There's nothing that I'm teaching guys. It's out there on the ether, whatever. The thing with coaching is the feedback, on the spot feedback right when you need it is and that accountability and that, like, you know, that's the thing. Like when you read content on the internet, you have like 400 things that you should be doing, but you end up doing none of them, right? The thing with coaching is, all right, here's the 3 most important things. Just do these 3. When you do those 3, you'll get 80% of it, and then just like you work on the bigger drivers instead of like worrying about all these little things, right? It's kind of like studying all these things that might have, woulda, coulda, shoulda, when you should be working on. That's the thing. People just read and just get into that content digestion. I don't know. They just get sucked into it. Yeah. And then they just end up doing nothing. Right.
And the crazy part is there's like levels to it too, right? So like sometimes it's frustrating to see, but I know it's like kind of endearing too when you see somebody who's like doing quote unquote in theory the right thing, but it's just like awkward or odd or just off in some way, shape, or form. Like it might not have been the right time, but they're like doing the best they can. It's like weird, like because we know better, we can see it, right? It's like and
they're blind to
and then the thing with the calibration is there's no like. Sometimes I'll tell people to talk more. Sometimes I'll tell others to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll tell people to stop touching. Some people I'll tell people to touch more. You know, so it's like there's no book that's gonna give you that somehow measures your DNA and then it's gonna tell you, oh, you're touching too much or you're too aggressive, you're too creepy, right? So like that has to be diagnosed by a person watching you.
Yeah.
And also like certain advice for beginner becomes like you need to stop doing that during an intermediate, and then certain advice when you're trying to become advanced, you should stop. So it's kind of like it's all relative to your current skill level too. There's no such thing as like one size fits all, right? So
wink, wink.
that's why it's impossible to like learn fully from just watching YouTube videos. Yeah, you know?
And also, I think.
And also, people are making YouTube videos for the algorithm too. So, is it really in your best interest, or people are just trying to get views?
Yeah, true that. And I think, like you said, what got you there isn't going to get you to where you want to go, especially when there's different stages and levels to it. And what makes this even more difficult, the EQ side of things, is it's an art. It's not always a science. There is structure, but everyone has their own style at the end of the day. There are things that are going to get you generally attractive, especially starting out in like intro or intermediary. But what goes beyond that is that you make it your own. That's that mastery. That's where you customize yourself, your game, who you are, your quality, your traits, your charisma to that end demographic of people that you actually want the most in life, right? So I know like so many different advanced guys, and you know what? You put them in one place, that's where they're going to kill it. They're going to be with like the hottest girls. They're going to be dating the girls that you dream of over there in that world. But you take them out and put them in a different world. Like, actually, I know this one dude, he crushes in Russia. He went to Miami and he struggled because the shit that works there doesn't work in Miami, right? Like, you know. And
very different, dude.
Yeah, like, and that dude is like slaying like goddesses, right? And you're just like jaw drop when you see them. But then that guy flounders over there and it's like, you know, he's a mere mortal there, but his game, his life is customized towards that demographic, right? And same with like, you know, other parts of the world or some parts of Asia, right? Like you would kill it in like Asia because they like that clean cut, like, oh, this guy looks professional, he's conservative, like, oh, that's the guy that we like. Other guys who dress a little bit more like me might be a little bit too threatening or too edgy, right?
Yeah, he's got way too much facial hairs for Asia, bro.
No, they
this
still like that
every time he goes back
DNA.
to Korea, every time he goes back to Korea, it's like, I gotta shave. Gotta shave. I gotta look like I put on some face whitening cream and turn into.
Oh, I got plenty of that. You know what I mean? But no, honestly, it's funny when I'm in Asia, like I have to do all this shit that's like borderline gay. Like if you were to do it out here, right? Like a little bit more feminine, a little bit more nice, a little bit more like non-threatening. And then I come back, I'm like, damn, I'm like not pussified, but like, you know, I gotta ratchet it up again when I'm back in the States, you know? Exactly.
It's like reverse Indian guys when they go back, they gotta grow a beard. They gotta plan it out like 3 months in advance.
No, that shit grows back like same night. But anyways, I think that's what makes it more difficult. The fact that it's an art and like you kind of have to go through different stages of it. And the fastest way to go through it is with experts. And like, I even was telling you this, like I felt like at the point in my life, I had quote unquote sick game and I had a capacity to connect with people very quickly. But then when I went to Korea or when I went to different parts of Asia, the game was like literally reversed.
Yeah, tone it down.
It was like
dude.
literally opposite. Things that work here are like opposite that work there. And fortunately, I was able to connect with guys that were like experts and masters out there that have been doing it for like a decade plus, and like they accelerated my like learning curve as well. And they were like, hey, pointing out these little things. And that was the reason why, like, I would have spun my wheels and made the same mistakes for months or years because I would have been like relying on my past references of things that worked for me back in a different world, but thinking that I would get away with it over there. So yeah, like that's the importance of like having that tutelage or that mentorship from people who've been there and done it. If you value your time and you want to save yourself years of pain and just like banging your head against the wall, even for guys like, you know, ourselves that have so much experience. So, you know, I'm actually kind of curious if you were to have done this like 10 years ago, where do you think your dating life would have gone like now? Like, where do you think that would have looked like? Like, do you think you would have been married? Do you think you would have been wiped up?
Married with that girl from Day Game. Yeah, dude.
Do you think you'd be Genghis Khan in it and you'd be like on the Maury show every other weekend? Like, yeah, where do you think you would have been?
Yeah, so I got two answers here. One, if it's interesting because I think if I had gotten like a decent success, I may have just settled.
Yeah.
And then that would have been a worse life for me. I would have got like a mediocre life. So I'm partially glad things didn't just like work out just enough.
Yeah.
But to answer your real question here, if I'd gotten coaching much earlier on, I think I would have had like a playbook. I would have had essentially feedback that I could have used to like accelerate my trajectory a lot faster.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too late for me.
Yeah,
so
you're at a good age, dude.
Yeah.
You're
And you're
31
fucking
is,
forever 20.
31 is a good dude. I'm
forever
telling you,
18 over here.
Yeah.
But he fucks
Luckily,
like
I
he's
have
19.
31 is a good
Asian
age.
genes.
Asian
So I still
genes
look
for the
like I'm
win.
18.
For all you girls that like jailbait.
Yeah, you look exactly like your YouTube videos from 14 years ago. What
I
the hell,
look
man?
the same
That's
from
insane, dude.
15 years ago. Yeah. It's that skincare.
Yeah. And you know, with that playbook, with that sense of structure and direction, like, do you think you would have had, or like, you know, by this point in your life now, if you had this same experience 10 years ago, do you think you would be like rotating different girls, or do you think you would be traveling in different countries to experience dating in different places? Like, what ideally would have unfolded for your love life?
Yeah, so for me, I think my goals were to like have an abundance of women so that I could, you know, date who I wanted to, have the experience to date who I wanted to, and then so if I so chose, which I eventually do, you know, pick out the girlfriend from that.
Yeah.
So essentially, the skills, the experience, the abundance to have the quality of women I wanted in my life.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's hard to say. Hindsight's 20/20. However, I mean, assuming things.
We gotta make a part 2 video.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a year from now. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, dude. And I think you'd be killing it, man, because you got a lot of great things going for you. We talked about this yesterday, right? There were some things that you were concerned about, but actually everything in life is a double-edged sword, right? It cuts both ways. The fact that you are in your 30s now, you're more established, you got more funds, you have more confidence, you've done a lot of the work on yourself, right? So you have a lot more to offer, right? And you got a good head on your shoulders. You are now more autonomous. You have this remote job. You can now live in different cities, gain references over there, right? It's going to look exciting, man. I'm super excited for you. What ways can we give you some additional tips right now, or like, you know, some coaching or wisdom or advice? We talked a little bit yesterday about how to banter a little bit, right? Like flipping it onto the girls if they're challenging. You get kind of teased a little bit by girls for looking so young, right? We came up with a few different ways to jiu-jitsu that. Yeah. What were some of them?
So one of the tips you gave me was just kind of like say something witty back. You know, if they respond in like a negative way, like don't just give up. Like the example you gave was like I approached 2 women and they said something like you look like you're 18 or something like that, and then you were like.
Well, I fuck like I'm
I
19.
fuck like I'm 19. You gave a few others too.
Yeah,
that
they're
were really
nonsense.
cool.
Dude, he gives responses that make no sense. Your head is like, what?
Oh, that means you high tea, dog. Yeah. And it's like,
It's that Asian genes.
Yeah.
Our kids are gonna be young for like 60 years.
Yeah. It's like they're gonna look young forever. It's like, oh, you look 18. Yeah, why does that turn you on? Dude, yeah, all of it. Like when they're giving you these shit tests, it's like a great way to flip it and like make them aroused by it. That means they're showing interest, right? Like just because they're giving you these things doesn't mean they're not interested.
Yeah.
Indifference is true disinterest, right? And so it's better to get some sort of emotion towards you, whether it be negative or positive, than to get nothing at all, right? And so now it's like seeing those things as actually indications of interest, right? Just because she's pushing you or like giving you sort of negative things, that's actually flirting. Now you know how to receive everything in a positive way. That's what I do. When someone says something negative, Mike tells me negative shit all the time. I just flip it, right? And then actually practicing with your homies is great because then you end up bringing it out at all times. Like when you're out with girls and stuff like that, then it just becomes like autopilot.
Yeah, the power is how you respond. Sometimes you respond in a way actually builds it's probably the fastest way to attraction.
Yeah. Because it shows that you don't give a fuck, right? And that's one of the most attractive things because it's like, it's not that you don't care about people, but you just like live and walk through life on your own terms. And it's like, damn, there's something very attractive about that. Versus the opposite. The opposite is like completely validation seeking, right? Or approval seeking, or like waiting for people to give you the go ahead versus a person that just like takes lead and goes and does what he believes in, right? That means like you're the leader and other people have the sense that they can follow and trust. Right. And so those are inherently attractive qualities of a man. And one way to subcommunicate that is the way you respond to these shit tests, right? Or these challenges, right? By responding in a nonchalant way where you don't give a fuck. And whether it makes sense or not, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even phase you because you just say and do whatever you want to do, right? I see you smiling. You're getting hard right there. I see the phone under the table.
That's so stupid.
Yeah, dog.
Yeah. And you told me about how like facial expressions, your body language, that all plays like a really like strong part of the presentation too. So yeah, you basically don't want to like do it in an insecure way. You want to be playful, bring the fun.
Absolutely.
So yeah, there was a lot of good tips there.
Absolutely. Like if you're going to do something, you might as well own it. And like approaching or like opening or flirting or bantering are things that you can't half-ass. If you half-ass, you get like none of the results. But by full-assing it, then that's where you get everything, right? So you might as well just own it like the best you can. And whatever is happening in that moment, that's the best that we're going to be in that moment. We can't just go work out, go get a six-pack, come back to that moment. So, or be better dressed. So we just got to own whatever it is that we have and just like, you know, just share it and express it the best way possible, right? And I think we talked about this too. I learned this a long time ago, weirdly. The reason why humans have eyebrows, can anyone guess? It's like your facial expressions, the way that you like can like emote your eyes and whatnot and like make eye contact indicates and shows people that you are trustworthy or not, right? So apparently humans in the past that didn't have eyebrows, they were hard to trust. So people just like got rid of them, right? Didn't accept them in their tribes or maybe like off them. And so that's why we have these weird furry patches above our eyes because they actually help emote and communicate expressions, right? So if that's how important eye contact and expressions are, then like being expressive really does help communicate and make people feel comfortable and have trust, right? You don't even have to be super loud or expressive, but even subtleties, right? Where you're like, why does that turn you on? Right? Just even that little wink over there makes them like, oh shit, something's going down, right? So yeah, like incorporating these micro expressions in your face or like, you know, your hands, like shows that also you're comfortable with presence. You're comfortable being the center of attention. You're comfortable being seen, right? Most people like that are starting out say a line and they like they don't want to be seen, right? Or like judged. But then it's like, well, you're still in front of this person, right? That's inevitable. But the most attractive thing that you can do is just be known and be seen in public, right? And not shy away from it because in that moment, that's what's happening. When a girl's friend comes up, the weirdest thing to do is like, oh, I'm hitting on a friend. Like, let me not be seen or acknowledge this person. Ostrich, head in the sand. Like, maybe she won't say anything. The more attractive thing to do is like, oh, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. I was just talking to your friend right here, right? It's like, oh, now they feel comfortable because that person's like, oh, this person doesn't think he's doing anything wrong, right? Even if you just like kind of cower away, it just insinuates or suggests, oh, this person feels like he's doing something weird, right? So like just like making yourself known is just comfortable, being loud, not obnoxiously, but just like vocal, and then like, you know, having hand gestures, being seen and noticed are all things that subcommunicate that you're comfortable, that you're used to it. People check you out all the time, which they do. You know? So, man, I think I'm really excited for what's to come here.
Thank you.
Road trip that comes ahead. And also, we're always here, man. Like, you want to rub some things off? Not like that. I mean, you know, run them by us and like, get some tips or feedback. That's what the point of a brotherhood is, right? Like we got your back. We're happy to help you. And like, if there's anything that you want to run by us and
Thank you.
like that.
I appreciate you.
And if you're curious whatsoever to improve your dating life, your social skills, building that brotherhood, having more attraction and success in this realm of your life, we're more than happy to help. Reach out to us. Happy to always have a conversation and see where we can take you.
Yeah, I'm glad, we've been in touch for over 9 years. So, really it's been an honor working with you. And we'll keep in touch. And for those of you guys that are watching, this is all we do full time. So it's our passion, it's our mission. If you're serious about getting your dating life handled and if doing it solo is not working, don't hesitate to reach out to us.
Hey guys, I just want to say one quick thing. For all you guys that are remotely considering getting help in this department, reach out to these guys. You don't want to waste another decade or however many years putting this off, trying to figure it out yourself. They're badass at what they do. So if you're remotely interested, click the link below. You will not be disappointed. Do yourself a favor and get this area of your life sorted out.